Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to Full Verticals Podcast episode 88. This is the pre-show, if you will, the time of the show when before we actually begin the actual show, we kind of let folks kind of come in here. We'll formally start here in a couple of minutes on the podcast side of things. So if you're listening to this on the YouTube side and then you go over to the podcast side, this will not be a part of the show, if you will. Again, this is only for YouTube, just a pre-show. That's it. Again, it's episode 88. Getting closer, hopefully everyone's having a good day. Go double check what's going on here because I know a lot of things are happening today. If you're not been paying attention to the news within the last couple of hours or so, there currently is a pretty serious situation happening in Tallahassee. Nothing to do with the football program, but a school shooting there. Don't know the details. Don't know how many folks have been. What the whole scope of this is. It's still a developing story. It sucks. I'm praying for you guys. Hopefully everything's going to be okay, but it's been a really rough afternoon over there. I just hopefully it'll get figured out, but it's not been a good afternoon for our friends over in Tallahassee. I'll just say that. If you've not been watching the news, that's sort of the very basic gist of it. If you want more of that, there's other places like, NBC, CBS, CNN. I'm sure they have been rolling out coverage ever since this occurred. But yeah, just a very sad situation over there that happened. That started around noon, a little before the stream. The stream started. So that was happening right as I was getting the show ready to go. So, but yeah, besides that, hopefully everyone's having a good day. Got a lot of news besides what's happening in Tallahassee and the school shooting. Transfer portal is going crazy. A lot of folks entering in. Fantastic Four dumping a trailer today randomly on a random Thursday. And then Lee Corso retiring today. Now he'll still be a part of Gameday week 1, but afterwards he will be done. That'll be his final show. Don't know. Of course, they won't announce the location and everything down the road. We'll see where it's at. But his final show will be on August 30th, week 1. Then after that, he will move on. Got a lot of memories, some memories, if you will. I'll go towards the Q&A. The Star Wars Celebration, by the way, starting. Supposedly, I don't know, it's kind of weird with it taking place in Japan. It's because the Star Wars Twitter account put out something about, it being starting today, but I don't know if it meant today as in Friday or today as in Thursday. I'm a little bit confused because it technically starts the 18th through the weekend. And with it being, in Japan, the international dateline situation, it's like, okay, what are they referring to? So I'm assuming it'll be taking place, I guess, tonight here, over there tomorrow. So I'll give you guys my reasonable expectations for that. But, letting some folks join in here. We'll probably start here in just a second. Here at 2:35. Get some water before we do that. Then we'll start I'll get the podcast folks on here. This is on the YouTube side of things. And by the way, we did debut our new slide. If you guys noticed that, the countdown slide. So how about that? New graphic there that we put up here. Debating on doing it for a while, but now we officially have a graphic. So how about that? Which is our logo. So we'll be doing that for the foreseeable future for shows going forward. But we'll start the actual show again. If you're listening to this on the YouTube side, if you're starting, just move, or you're starting here, just move the slider over towards around about 5 minutes in on the YouTube side of things. But on the podcast side of things, it will start immediately in of the actual show, and it is now 2:35. So with that, on the YouTube side, letting you guys know we are about to start the recording on Spotify. So the show will actually begin in 3, 2, 1. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, for Verticals Podcast episode 88 here on, what day is it today? I know it's late April. It is Thursday, April 17th. That's right. And a couple days ago was tax day. Didn't realize what the day was. There's so much stuff going on today. It's been a weird day. Of course, now a lot of you who are listening to this have probably been aware of this by now. The situation in Tallahassee at Florida State campus, the incident going on over there. hoping, praying for you guys. I know there's still a lot of details we still don't know. Hopefully everyone's safe over there. I know it's been going on for a couple hours now. It's been, and I was getting the show ready today, getting the notes ready and stuff. The news pops up, and it's been hard. It's been pretty tough. Now, of course, I don't go to Florida State. I'm here in Jacksonville, down the road on I-10. But this was pretty bad, and very serious situation going on over there. Again, if you want to know more about what's going on, of course, go to the bigger news networks. So this is not a news show per se, like a news. But if you want more information on that, of course, major networks will have you covered. But we have our own things to handle here. But again, keeping you guys in my thoughts. That's a horrible, tragic situation there. Again, we don't know the full details on what has happened, what has not happened, but very scary. Of course, most of the athletic events have been postponed, by the way, for the rest of the week, for the rest of the week, which makes sense given what has just taken place. So, keeping you guys in my thoughts there. But of course, we still have a show to go on. But I just wanted to start out with that. Of course, I know a lot of you will be asking in the comment section, hey, we're gonna acknowledge what's happening at Florida State? Yes, I did acknowledge it. Wasn't gonna forget about that. Anytime we have incidents like these, of course, we don't talk about these ad nauseum. Of course, this is a sports and Marvel Star Wars show. But, of course, the plane crash back in D.C. a couple of months ago, whenever events like this happen, I like to briefly address it at the beginning. But, episode 88, getting closer to the 100th episode, not too much longer. Got a lot of things to talk about today. It's been a really, really busy day, even before what happened at noon, or what started at noon. Transfer portal's been crazy. A lot of folks entering in. Fantastic Four, by the way. Marvel releasing a new Fantastic Four trailer that debuted this morning. Randomly just news dumping it, kind of. No premiere or anything. Of course, we have Star Wars Celebration going on supposedly today. I'm assuming it's tomorrow. But because it's taking place in Japan, I'm assuming it will probably start, at least for us here on the East Coast and much of the continental U.S., probably around midnight our time, I guess. I don't know the exact details. They've not been very transparent about that. But supposedly it's taking place their time tomorrow because it's the international dateline. But I would assume it's going to be starting soon, I guess. But it'll be taking place technically tomorrow, I guess, but throughout the weekend. I'll give you my reasonable expectations on that. And, of course, we have our typical, around this time of the year, well, not typical, as we've only been doing the show for a year, but around this time of the year, going forward, we'll be doing Q&A. And, of course, we have our traditional Q&A like we've been doing the past couple of shows. And one topic, of course, the other big news that took place this morning was Lee Corso retiring. After week 1, he will be done with College Game Day, and he'll be moving on. I got thoughts on that, of course. There's time to college football. But if you are new here, first of all, welcome in. Of course, we talk about college football, Star Wars, Marvel, Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. By the way, the draft starting next week. Of course, we'll have some coverage on that starting on Tuesday. I believe we will start bringing in the Buccaneers back in because it's been, of course, after the Super Bowl, once the Buccaneers lost the playoff game. Not a whole lot of topic about Tampa, of course, the new OC hire, but with the draft coming up, of course, we'll be bringing the Buccaneers back in here towards the very end of the show, by the way, so it won't be a main featured topic unless they win the Super Bowl again. That's the only time there'll be a top story on the show. But we will be bringing back the Tampa Bay topics, of course, with the draft coming up next week. And of course, we have Easter this weekend, so again, it's a very busy time of the year. So again, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. We have 5 subscribers. We're still trying to grow the channel. We are not the best college football show, if you will. We're not the best, but we are certainly the newest. We've not been doing this for very, very long. Our 1-year anniversary of having the show as it is will be coming up soon in June, so that's going to be nice. Of course, our 100th episode coming up soon. Of course, if you're on YouTube, most of the shows were on Spotify only before you moved over. But again, make sure you subscribe. Like the streams, like the videos when we do them, the individual videos. And make sure to follow us on the podcast feed as well, because it helps us grow our network. And, of course, we're on Twitter as well. And I think that's all the notes we have. A very long intro, but I guess the bottom line is just a lot of things that have happened today. And it's been, I did not expect the intro to go well over this long. But we have lots of things to cover in the opening there. But anyway, let's actually get into the show. I'm going to get some more water here, and we'll dive into this. Transfer portal update will be first up. So, as most of you probably know, the transfer portal, the spring version, if you will, because remember, there's two. The one in December during the playoff postseason, then we have this other one after when spring practice wraps up for a lot of people. It's been open since Wednesday, so yesterday. A lot of folks have entered in. Some of them we knew beforehand, some we did not. So we'll go over sort of the ones who have landed the big names, and we'll go over the names that are out there, because there's a lot of them. And we'll go over sort of could more names be coming in, or at least more names could be entered into the database. So for those who have landed, first real big one, if you will, besides the obvious one, don't worry, we'll address that here soon, or in a few minutes. But Jaden Ott, running back from Cal. Of course, Cal bringing in new offensive coordinator, former Boise State Auburn head coach Brian Harsin. Jaden Ott is a Oklahoma Sooner. Nice piece there for them. Of course, a big year for easy enough for me to say. A big year for Brent Venables and the Sooners. This is a big gift for them. Jaden Ott was out last year. He was injured at times. Was good the year before. Pretty decent gift for them. Of course, they also got a new offensive lineman, Jake Mikula. I'm totally sorry for mispronouncing that name. I'm not the best at. Some of these names are not necessarily common to me, but the O-lineman from Stanford is also coming in, so some nice help there on the defensive line. I mean, not defensive line, the O-line, offensive line. Of course, to have the new OC, Ben Arbuckle. Of course, to have John Mateer coming in. The offense in general was the problem, at least scheme-wise, and some other issues of injuries and stuff, so this should help out with depth. But them getting Jaden Ott there from Cal could be a big help there, especially with Mateer. Mateer definitely more of a runner, dual threat guy. Again, with pairing those guys up with Ben Arbuckle, it could be a lot of fun there. Of course, their schedule is the Oklahoma schedule. Was it to get like a couple of G5s? They go to Temple, by the way. Strange on the road game, but whatever. I'm not going to judge you for playing at Lincoln Financial Stadium there in Philadelphia. But then they have Michigan coming to town. So there's that. Now, of course, the big one, the big name that everyone's focused on is Nico Iamaleava. Of course, he leaves Tennessee last week. If you want my thoughts on that, go to the Tuesday show and then the video we put up on Friday. There was a report, if you will, or just a post that Colin Cowherd made on X yesterday, sort of hinting or sort of putting out there, hey, I have good sources. I mean, Colin's been around for a long time. I'm sure a lot of long-time college football fans know who he is. But Colin, of course, he's out there in Los Angeles currently. If he does, for those of you who don't know, he's moving out to Chicago soon. He's moving, but out there in Los Angeles at the moment. But of course, there's a lot of sources out there with USC and UCLA from what he has heard. This was yesterday that UCLA and Nico Iamaleava, that was apparently a thing. He mentioned in this tweet that his representatives, parents, his dad, reiterated that the issues at Tennessee was not money related. It was the offense. We will circle back to that with a question in the Q&A because I do have thoughts on that. So him going to UCLA was a thing that was picking up traction yesterday. Though a couple of people like Bruce Feldman over at The Athletic, I believe, said, hey, let's hold the horses here. It's not a done deal yet. We'll see. But that seems to be the leading candidate. Not been official yet, but interesting get there for UCLA. Of course, have new coaching staff coming in from last year. They brought in, by the way, one of the coaches, I believe the OC from Indiana, I believe he comes in. Didn't expect him to have potentially a former five-star quarterback who was a five-star in recruiting. So looking at that UCLA schedule, not reasonable to think here. Quarterback upgrade could potentially see that could be worth another winner. So we'll see. Of course, you have a long time to, of course, it's not confirmed yet. So, this is just us wish casting. Well, not really wish casting, but thinking ahead. But that one has not been necessarily resolved yet, Nico UCLA thing, but it's certainly the leading candidate. Of course, there was a lot of things going on throughout the week about, whoa, man, Nico could be going to Tulane or UNC or USC or whatever, or Ohio State. Uh, those were, people are going to have things to say. Of course, if you're a credible reporter, of course, if you have that information and if it's, there's the handshake emoji, you're agreed to put it out there. But, some of that stuff was not necessarily real. Some of it was kind of pie in the sky type stuff. Of course, the reports were coming out that a lot of G5 schools are keeping tabs on this, Tulane being one of them, John Sternrow Company. Of course, it turns out he was not going to go there. They decided to push back a little bit. Of course, everyone brought up Texas Tech. And for those of you who don't know what the whole Texas Tech thing is, with the, how are they getting all these transfers? One of their boosters is a multi-millionaire wealthy individual, and he is contributing to the school now. That's been a pretty much a recent thing. So that's why you're seeing them building a pretty decent roster in the portal. So Nico going there are some people who are thinking that, again, more of a pie in the sky thing. There you have Brenton Morton, the quarterback. They're over there in Lubbock, so they already have a established starters. I'm trying to say, and Nico going there didn't really fit the bill per se. But then again, the money situation, of course, you're given what has been out there. The money was the problem here, not necessarily the offense, contrary to what the father is saying. But so the UCLA Nico Bielema thing, we will see if that ends up being, confirmed yet by the school or him or whatever. But those are potentially two major players for OU that have been landed or were, have found the spot. But Nico still to be determined. In terms of who is out there, sort of the best out there right now that have entered into the database, gone through the paperwork, yada, yada, yada. Roderick Pleasant from Oregon, cornerback, I believe a former 4-star, 5-star guy in the portal available. So if you're needing help at the corner position, potentially teams in the southeastern region, perhaps, as specifically as it can get, could be looking at that, given Dan Lanning's connection down there. Hakeem Williams, speaking of Florida State earlier, not in the most positive light, but Hakeem Williams from Florida State, former 5-star, the only 5-star signee of the Norvell era. He's in the portal. Injury-ridden, hasn't necessarily developed the way people thought he would. He's out there. So, again, thinking, potentially teams in the southeastern region perhaps could be in play for him. John Emery Jr., running back from LSU, still out there. He's been in college for like 10 years almost, literally almost 10 years. He's out there as well. Steve Angeli, quarterback from Notre Dame, in the portal. How about that? So that doesn't give you insight into what the quarterback situation is going to be. I guess sounds like CJ Carr probably will be the starter up there. If you don't know, he is the grandson of Lloyd Carr, Michigan head coach, a long time ago. So he's in the portal. Again, think maybe potentially teams in the southeastern region, Tennessee maybe, could be in play for him. Not necessarily, but just teams like that. Then you have Nitro Tuggle, wide receiver, former 4-star kid. He's also out there. He is out of Georgia. He is in the database. So teams not in the southeastern region, the SEC, are going to be in play. Now, that also includes the ACC will be in play for him, any teams there. So he's out there. Tanner Kozel, I believe. Again, just apologies for the mispronunciation of the name there. I knew that's not how you're supposed to say it. Otherwise, I would have used Google Translate, but I didn't. Tell me to pronounce that. But the tight end from Ball State that transferred to Wisconsin, he is leaving. Huge loss here for Wisconsin. That coaching staff there, that's tough. Where he was only literally there for only the spring, and now he's leaving. We'll see where he ends up. Micah Hudson, by the way, the Texas Tech transfer, the former 5-star. Well, not former, he's still playing football. The 5-star kid, he went to Texas Tech. Remember, he went to A&M. He's on the team anymore, and he's in the portal now. He got dismissed. Disappointed. I thought that was a big get for A&M at the time, but he's moving on, and I don't know too much what happened there. I think there's some indication because he left the team because of personal issues. some speculation here by me, but could potentially be character flaw. Maybe that's why he left Texas Tech and he's in the portal again spring. So we'll see where he ends up going. But in terms of other big names coming in, of course, this is something that Bud Elliott's been mentioning and Josh Pate hinted at on Sunday. Could we see other big names? There's some decent names, like Angeli's a good, decent enough name. Mike Hudson, besides the potential character flaws there. Nitro Tuggle. Some of these are decently big names in terms of if you follow recruiting. A lot of these guys, at least not familiar. Again, Williams from Florida State. Will there be other big names here, like big, names from, especially from the southeastern region, right? The SEC. Could we see any of those guys leave? Not impossible right now. Of course, they can't transfer interconference, right? Unless they challenge it legally, because there's nothing in the, the United States Constitution doesn't say you can't do that. So you could, but no one's done it yet. But besides that, if teams down there follow that bylaw, I would imagine, especially for someone like Hakeem Williams, Penn State, Nitro Tuggle, same thing, Penn State. They need wide receivers, so James Franklin and company could be having those guys on speed dial, unless they have the do not contact tag, which some players do. Of course, Nico had that, but with that situation, we didn't necessarily know what that really meant, because traditionally that means you know where you're going. You'd prefer to not have anyone talk to you besides the team you're talking with, or the team you're going to. But so teams like Penn State, Ohio State, defensive line, Oregon potentially. They've been a big player in the portal and the transfer market last season. Tennessee of quarterback, right? So there's a lot of these big teams that are going to be hunting in the portal. And of course, what I agree with Josh Pate, that I believe this portal cycle, given with the House ruling being delayed a little bit, the fact that once again teams are going to have potentially one last opportunity to have a lot of money to spend, meaning they can spend a lot in this portal cycle. Don't be surprised if Penn State makes moves, and Ohio State makes moves, and Tennessee, especially now at quarterback, they have some moves. A&M potentially making some moves. So look, I'm not shooting the flare gun up in the sky, or shooting off, the firework and saying, hey guys, I have some insider information, or I have like someone texting me on my phone, on my iPhone. Or I guess since my name is Josh, I guess that'd be an iJosh, I guess. Maybe I have to get in touch with Josh Payne on that, if we can say that. But I have no insider information telling me that big names are entering the portal. No one's like DMing me on Twitter or X telling me that. So I can't say for sure big names will be in there, because no one's told me that. But based on what I'm hearing from some of the industry insiders, there is a perception, or I guess a feel, that there could be names coming in based on the fact that House settlement's not been fully figured out yet. This will be the last time that the transfer portal more than likely will be sort of open season, doomsday scenario, whatever. So I'm just letting you guys know, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then whatever, and good. And that means that some of these collectives are, much like this time last year, we're paying up again and keeping guys at home and not letting them leave. So again, the portal, folks are out there. Folks are starting to land at places. Could more big names be coming in, or even big earth-shattering names? Of course they could. Is it a guarantee? Well, no, but we'll see. We'll come back to me next Tuesday and we'll see. See here, drink some water here, and then we got some Fantastic Four news, Star Wars Celebration stuff, and then we'll have some Q&A. Got a pretty good Q&A here. I think this will sort of ties into some news and some other things, which again, this is April and with our show, so we can have pretty long-winded Q&As here. All right, water has been drank, and let's get into this. So this morning at around 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific time, Marvel decided to, let's drop the Fantastic Four trailer. Not on 4/4 day, but a week after. Weird marketing stuff aside, look, I've been critical of Marvel in terms of their marketing, and I feel like DC, especially with the Superman stuff, I really feel like James Gunn and company have been really doing a pretty good job, I will say, in terms of getting marketing out there. I will criticize them as well. They've had some bizarre things as well. But I will say, in terms of everything we've seen from Marvel and DC combined lately, that Superman extended clip that was originally supposed to be exclusive to the Minecraft movie, but then of course it starts getting leaked out, and DC and James Gunn were like, "Oh, screw it, let's just put it out there anyway." That to me so far was the best piece of marketing we have seen this year, this calendar year. That was the best. That Superman clip was really good, and I feel like to me that Marvel was sort of dropping the ball a little bit. They could have put some stuff out. Of course, you had 4-4-day. Was it last week or the week before? Felt like a massive missed opportunity of marketing. You could have really honed that in as someone who has, again, interned at several places and I've experienced major marketing machines, how they operate and how they view engagement, stuff like that, and putting out products and certain campaigns and stuff. Just so having that knowledge and seeing what Marvel was not doing the past couple weeks, it's like, man, this kind of sucks. As a fan, wanting to see more of this, right? You're hearing all this, great stuff from, CinemaCon and all the footage I was showing there. Man, that sounds great, but we're not seeing that. Like, they're not going to bring that to us. And then you have, James Gunn and DC, putting out, the Superman stuff. You have the Supergirl stuff that has leaked recently. So, kind of a bummer, right? And then you have not just the Fantastic Four stuff, but you have the Brave New World marketing stuff. And you have the stuff going on with Daredevil. And look, I was going to address that here, but there's so much stuff going on. We'll have to move that until probably next Tuesday. Of course, the finale this past Tuesday. But, of course, Marvel finally drops the trailer, and it was really, really good. I think the best piece of marketing, they've put out so far this year. They also, by the way, put out a Thunderbolts trailer. We'll talk more about that next week as well. I was going to address that here, but this Fantastic Four trailer kind of stole the headlines here, only in terms of the pop culture news. But yeah, I like the trailer. It was really good. The vibes are good. Got some more sort of an extended version of what was shown on their social media on Twitter, their Twitter page on Sunday. That clip of Johnny eating the cereal and Sue and Reed being late for dinner. Got first look, at least publicly, of the Silver Surfer, female Silver Surfer, which I know a lot of folks were upset about. Them Marvel not doing Norrin Radd, who was the Silver Surfer, the main one in the comics, and he was featured in the OG, not the '90s Fantastic Four, but the other one with Chris Evans, Human Torch. So, a lot of folks are upset about that. I'm like, okay, whatever. I know, I was aware there was two types of Silver Surfers in the comics. I understand people will be upset about that because they wanted Norrin Radd to be in it. They like that story. But I am going to give this one a chance. The visual effects look pretty good. I will admit it looks a little bit, video gamey, Polar Express a little bit, which hopefully by the time the movie comes out, the VFX folks will have the proper time to fix it up and polish it up. But even for a first impression, it looks pretty good. Got Galactus, his feet this time instead of back of his head. So that's kind of cool. Him walking around the alternate New York. Got a little bit more lines from Reed Richards, a lot more interactions with the characters, the main characters, if you will. And I will say as well, because there's been this plot leak that's been going around on Reddit recently, and a lot of this stuff does sort of line up with the talk show, and even, I believe, got the name right. Some of the stuff about Subterranea with Mole Man and, potentially him having Subterranea being the place where the citizens of New York evacuate when Galactus shows up. That was teased out in the plot leak. That has been confirmed. There is a shot in the trailer that does show that. And I know some folks are worried about that. Though I will say, when it comes to plot leaks and stuff like that, I'll just say that, look, it may sound stupid on paper, but think back to Endgame when the Professor Hulk stuff and that Thor, that was leaked out a little bit before the movie came out. And folks were like, "Oh man, this is so stupid and weird." Then the film comes out, and everyone's, they're fine, and it works out. So just a little bit caution there, just because it sounds stupid on paper or on a message board or whatever, or a Reddit page, doesn't mean it will be bad when it translates over the screen. So I'll give it a shot. Yes, does it sound weird on paper? Yeah, a little bit. Another thing that's also been teased out, not necessarily on the Reddit, but people just speculating that the Franklin Richards, which by the way was confirmed at CinemaCon, even though it was leaked out in the the concept art that was leaked out last month. That has also been confirmed now, and it was in the trailer, and folks have noticed, hey, him being born probably going to take place in space. There's some of the shots there with Reed and Sue Storm up in space when they go up the second time. That's also been up there. Of course, there's also been a lot of rumors and speculation about cameos and stuff, and who could be appearing and who's not. I will just say this: I was listening to Josh over at Den of Nerds, his channel, Josh's channel, earlier. Of course, he had Rob from Comics Explained on the phone. Always great to have those guys talking. That was very great too, by the way. If you weren't there watching that stream, I would recommend go watch it back. That was a great conversation I had. There was some weird stuff going on too with rumors and theories and stuff they were crafting out there. But Josh mentioned on his stream that he will be dropping a video this weekend talking about things that he has been hearing and some of the stuff about Chris Evans potentially being in the post-credit scene and what that means. Look, I'll just say this because I am starting to pick up what he's referring to here, because there's this been hinted in the trailer too, when Reed brings up in the trailer that sort of paraphrasing here, but when he says, I stretched the boundaries of space and time and they noticed. What he is referring to, again, this is not me confirming anything. This is not me necessarily saying I heard this from someone, but this is just me using my brain here, sort of connecting the dots here. When he mentions they, I believe he's referring to the Council of Reeds, which is in the comics, which is just altered up versions of Reed Richards. And it's a whole, I'm not going to go into it here. You can find videos on it on YouTube. But that's what he's referring to in the trailer. And I think Josh over at Den of Nerds believes that. I think that's what the post-credit team is probably going to be, because, again, if they're bringing in Chris Evans, who did play a previous version of Johnny Storm in the other Fantastic Four movies and in Deadpool and Wolverine, makes you wonder, could other versions, because, again, another thing, too, and this is something that Josh brought up in the stream, and he's mentioned this before, too. Isn't it funny, back when they were doing the casting stuff, because we were doing, the Adam Driver, Margot Robbie as Reed Richards and Sue Storm, respectively. It was them. You have, Diego Luna, and was it Penn Bake, or whoever his name is, but the other names too were being added in. It's kind of funny there too, with Pedro and Diego Luna being two Star Wars alumni. So that's kind of funny, but a lot of those names are being thrown out there for Reed Richards specifically. And it's funny how those names are out there, but then we get to the cheaper option, right? That's just something that Jeff Snyder has brought up on his show with John Roca, that Marvel went the cheaper route. But it makes you wonder, with those names being out there, could those names like Diego Luna or potentially a John Krasinski come back? Could that be a hint? With those names being out there, be not necessarily Marvel is not going to throw those names away, but instead repurpose those castings and say, hey, would you guys want to still be in the movie, but we'll put you in a post-credit scene or something, dealing with the Council of Reeds. I really think that's going to happen. I really do think you are going to see the Council of Reeds in the post-credit scene or wherever in the movie. I think the fact that they have those names out there, the fact that you're hearing the rumors about, Chris Evans being in the movie. Not to mention too, there was a mystery person who, I think there was a photo. I think it was coming from Pedro Pascal's Instagram or Twitter, or not Twitter. I don't think does he have one? I don't think so, but I know he has Instagram, and it came from somewhere. I don't even from him, but regardless, it was a picture of him, and he was with a different actor, and he has a sticker or emoji or something over his face, and it was sort of, people were wondering, who is that supposed to be? A lot of folks sort of figured out, and I believe those new rock stars who figured out that it might be that the person who was in that photo of Pedro was Iom Griffith, I believe, or whoever, the guy who played Reed Richards in the old Fox Fantastic Four movie, not the 2015 one, but the one before that. People, including new rock stars, have kind of figured out that that's who that is. And if that's the case, and you're connecting the dots as well with, Pedro, with the line with him saying that in the trailer, the other actors who were considered for Reed Richards, makes you wonder, right? Is that really starting to connect? And that's what they're doing, and that could be the post-credit scene. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not saying that's been confirmed or anything by people who I've talked to, but I would certainly believe that to me is a very high chance of happening. And look, there's obviously the possibility that it could all be cut out, right? We've seen Marvel have ideas. They've even brought in actors come into certain movies, and their roles have been cut before. So it's not a guarantee or anything, but it certainly makes you think that could be the road it could be going down. And another thing that Rob and Josh brought up earlier on their stream is that, when he's referring to Reed Richards in the trailer, could also be referring to the Council of Kings as well, because Kang, of course, they've moved on to Doctor Doom, but Doesn't necessarily mean that Kang and the Council could still be dealt with potentially. Doom coming in and killing all of them could also be referring to them as well. So there's two options there potentially, but overall, trailer looked good. I'm excited. Yes, I brought up on Monday the concerns, and a lot of folks are still nervous about this movie. And look, it's okay to be too nervous. Right? You've seen Marvel blunder, especially in this decade so far, for the most part. I mean, they have, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, the Marvels, Captain America, Brave New World. A lot of their TV shows have been just, but another thing, and I'll end with this and we'll move on. Josh brought this up earlier on his stream. He's brought this up multiple times that with this film and Thunderbolts, Marvel has done mostly internal screenings, and they do screenings a lot. Every single studio does this, right? Sort of like doing a focus group. It's typical PR stuff, to get a gauge on how your product's doing, sort of testing it, if you will. And what Marvel typically does with their movies that they feel confident in, they'll usually keep it internal, smaller pool, but a reliable pools. Think of VFX artists, other directors, other employees, and employee families. That's where some leaks come from, by the way. I touched on that weeks ago on how that happens. But what Marvel has done recently for the Marvels and Quantumania and Captain America Brave New World is that they have done public test screenings. We'll go to different random areas and you'll get stuff in the mail saying, hey, we'll come out here and you have to sign sign an NDA, or else we'll, if you say something about this publicly, we'll have the lawyers come after you and whatnot, and you'll get sued, or we'll, bad legal things will start to happen. But that's what Marvel was doing in terms of having public test screenings for those movies, or past few movies. And I think that was something that people were picking up on as a bad sign, that they were not happy about their films and they wanted to have public test screenings to have a larger pool, and maybe that would generate better traction positively. And it didn't end up working out for them, and I think a lot of folks have caught on to that, because that's those test screenings were revealed via guys like Jeff Snyder and whatnot in the past. But for this movie and Thunderbolts, that's not been the case. It's mostly been private test screenings, more of a reliable pool of people. Again, mostly Marvel, Disney employees or friends and family and whatnot. So smaller pool means you're confident, and I think that's a good sign, even though, Thunderbolts is tracking horribly, which is a shame, because I think the movie looks really, really good. I'm really excited about it, but, it just is what it is right now. And I think with Fantastic Four, again, with the, with the production of the film, they have not really been in a whole lot of reshoots. Things have been going well with that. Things like that, Thunderbolts, even though the movie Thunderbolts is tracking poorly, these could be the best two Marvel films we've had in a long time, at least this decade potentially. And there have been some good ones, Shang-Chi, Multiverse of Madness, contrary to popular belief. I'm more a fan of that movie than folks I know personally. We're not fans of that film. I thought it was a good movie, but certainly not the standard they were. I think we're used to from Marvel. Of course, the best film so far this decade for Marvel, and I guess including Sony, is No Way Home. And that dealt with the multiverse. And of course, everyone, the low-hanging fruit argument, it's like, oh man, people hate the multiverse stuff. Well, the Multiverse of Madness made a lot of money. Spider-Man made $1 billion. It's like, people don't hate the multiverse. It's just all it is being able to execute it properly. That's all it is, right? I think a lot of folks can agree on that. And look, there's some folks who don't like it because it's, they don't like multiverse stuff. And look, I disagree on that because I think the multiverse stuff is kind of cool, but whatever. Folks can agree to disagree. But yeah, Fantastic Four trailer looks good. Visually looks beautiful. Again, confirming a lot of the plot leaks. Now, again, that plot leak, by the way, on Reddit, this is something that Josh mentioned as well. We will actually move on here, but just be careful. Again, like I mentioned, Josh believes that a lot of that stuff in that plot leak, he mentioned this on the stream, that much like the Superman plot leak, that there's some stuff in there that is true. Some of it's probably not. So just be careful of that if you've been looking into it. But yeah, I think that this trailer does confirm a lot of that plot leak, and I think the Council of Reeds being included in the movie, again, given the previous casting stuff, given that leaked photo of Pedro and supposedly the Reed Richards actor from the Fox Fantastic Four films, that's who that was. I think with the for Seven stuff, definitely is setting up, to me, at least in the post-credit scene, we're going to get a Council of Reeds, a la similar to the Council of Kings and Quantum Mania. Hopefully, probably better executed, I guess. Even though I thought that post-credit scene was okay. Now it's a little bit different now, given what's happened. But anyway, Fantastic Four trailer, good. Lines up with the leaks, liked it. Finally, Marvel actually catching up here a little bit after DC was sort of circling them last week and the past couple of weeks. But good for them. You know, we were bashing on them, and look, we were harsh on them, but you know, it's tough love, right? You know, it just is what it is. Okay, Star Wars Celebration. Yeah, Celebration, right? Look, we've been reporting on this. You know, we had a topic on this a couple weeks ago about the excitement level, and I just don't think there's a lot of excitement here. And look, you know, folks are going over there, and look, I would love to go to one of these events. Unfortunately, I'm not in the position to travel to Tokyo, Japan. As beautiful a place that would be to visit, I don't have to necessarily the funds or the means to get over there right now. But I'm sure a lot of you folks are having fun over there. A lot of you have made a trip out of it. A lot of you guys arrived last week, from what I've heard. So, yeah, hopefully you guys are having fun over there. Again, I don't know, is the events, when is it actually going to start? I would assume it will be starting tonight, but I don't know, whatever. It will start soon, I guess. Some point, either, I guess, for us here today or tomorrow here in the U.S. But what are reasonable expectations here for Celebration, right? A lot of folks traditionally would imagine announcements, trailers, things like that. What I can tell you will happen, I think most of it's been confirmed. We're definitely going to get news on the Mandalorian Grogu movie. Maybe a trailer, though I will admit it's kind of early for that, but maybe just a quick teaser, more likely. I know another thing we'll be getting, probably a panel for Ahsoka. So most of the cast will be there. Though, again, some confusion there because they supposedly were filming you know, as early as like a few weeks ago. So it's like, okay, they're bringing them over to Japan. Okay, I guess they can make it work out because it's, you know, multi-billion-dollar company. I'm sure they can work out travel for cast members of a show that's filming in London to travel to Japan. So I guess they worked it out somehow. But yeah, so Ahsoka panel there. I think actually someone saw Hayden Christensen there. So I guess that does confirm that at least some of them are over there. I don't think all of them will be there, but we'll see. Definitely won't have anything meaningful from Ahsoka. I'm sure we'll probably get, you know, concept art, a big panel, a Q&A session, probably of one of the folks from Lucasfilm talking with the cast members. So no trailer probably from that because they haven't really started filming yet, or if they have started, it's barely anything. Also, with the Ahsoka stuff, with the panel there, I would imagine we'll get the confirmation of, was it Roy McCann, who was taking over for Ray Stevenson, who passed away, gosh, it's already been 2 years ago. They'll probably announce that Balin recasting probably, so that will probably be announced either, I don't know, I think the panel's Saturday, I believe, either tomorrow or Saturday, our time. But yeah, so I can expect that. Another thing we touched on, I believe if I recall on Tuesday, something that part of Josh over at Den of Nerds in his video a couple weeks ago, mentioning a new animated series that might be announced. So like Maul series probably. I would imagine if that is the case, regardless if it's that or not, just any animated show, I'm assuming we'll probably get that announced during that. Besides that, I'm not really expecting anything else. I know Josh mentioned in his video that Timon Morrison will also be present there, and there might be an announcement. I don't know if it's anything personal with him or not. Like, I know me in my head was like, is he going to announce his retirement or anything? Because he's up there in age. I mean, not that old, but that's something that immediately popped in my mind. It's like, oh man, is he going to announce he's retiring from acting? We'll see, but apparently he'll be there as well. But besides that, the Ahsoka stuff, Mandalorian, I guess some stuff about the Rey movie, but that ties into what I'm about to mention. I don't expect anything else. That's probably it. I think what Josh mentioned in his video, based on what his source said, he doesn't expect really a whole lot being announced. And I think that ties into the current state of Lucasfilm right now. Of course, you have the Kathy stuff with her retiring and not retiring. A lot of folks are kind of confused on that. I certainly am. It sounds like no one knows what's going on over there. And that sort of ties into why they won't be announcing a whole lot of stuff. So if you're expecting major movie announcements, more Disney Plus shows, I don't think so. I think just the fact that there's so much friction there from what Josh has described, a lot of it is sort of tying to folks wanting change, wanting to go away from what Kathy's doing. There was also, and this was also mentioned in Josh's video as well, about Jon Favreau potentially leaving. And of course, that was actually brought up years ago, by the way, when Josh, I don't know if it's the same source, but he also brought it up too after Mandalorian season 3 or during it, that Jon Favreau was potentially leaving back then. So there's that potentially being put into play here, sort of the studio politics. Because of that, I'm not really expecting a whole lot to be announced. I'm sure we'll get comics and stuff. And I know there's that video game. I forgot what it's called, but I saw that on Twitter the other day on YouTube. Though I think that's going to be talked about tomorrow. So at least at the time of recording this. But of course, listening to us on the podcast feed, this might not be relevant, but in terms of the timing. But yeah, just because of the whole studio politics thing, the confusion in terms of what's happening over there, what changes are being made. I would not expect a whole lot besides what's been announced. So, thank you again, the Mandalorian movie, Ahsoka panel, maybe an official announcement on Dave's movie, his movie, maybe an official title, maybe. So maybe casting him, because I'm assuming that movie's coming out soon after Ahsoka's wrapped up. They'll probably move into production with that soon. But yeah, besides that, any more information on the Rey movie and stuff like that, I'm not expecting that. And look, let me clarify. I'm not saying the movie's gonna be canceled, but the fact that there's a lot of toxicity around that movie. And of course, for those of you who are wondering, yes, that's a project that's been announced. And I kind of know the director, was it Charmin Obey-Chinoy, I believe. She's supposedly been attached to that film. A lot of folks don't know what's happening with that. You also have the James Mangold movie. Same. I would not expect a whole lot of more information on that. That's just based on what Josh is saying. That's just me sort of speculating here. Don't expect that to be something talked about. Again, given the whole situation there, the studio politics, what's happening with the future of the brand and the company, we just would not expect anything new besides what they know for sure is coming out. So again, Ahsoka season 2, Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and then Dave's movie. Probably the only things I would imagine would be talked about. So anything else, I guess also the new animated show. Besides that, nothing else probably will be announced. I don't expect that. If they do, I would be stunned. I know there was some Star Wars news casting that happened yesterday. It was like an actress that was announced, and it turns out not the case. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on there. That's per usual, right? Typical Lucasfilm stuff. And look, it sounds like I'm a hater. I'm not. Look, I'm rooting for this brand to do well, right? I have my Lego collection with me on my table over here. So and I tells you I'm a fan or anything. I'm still a fan, but is it something just like Marvel? Am I going to be critical of Lucasfilm when they screw up? Yeah, I am. I'm going to. No holds barred here. So that's my reasonable expectations and thoughts on Star Wars Celebration. Of course, a lot of you will be going over there or have already been there. Of course, I don't know if you'll be leaving now, right? Unless you don't care about tomorrow's stuff. But again, I've never actually been to any of these conventions either. Like, I know there's one here in Jacksonville they have every single spring. There's Dragon Con in Atlanta, which is a big one that happens, of course, coincides with college football week 1. Last year it was Clemson Georgia game and the convention going on the same weekend, so pretty busy up there every Labor Day weekend. But I've never been to any of those conventions before. I have buddies who've been there before, well, not Celebration, but been to conventions before. They're a lot of fun. Certainly a lot of folks go to a lot of them, but I've not been there myself. But I do have a lot of buddies who I know have been there before, and they've told me it's a lot of fun. So hopefully someday I'll be able to go to one, but at the moment, I don't think I'll be able to make it to Japan right now. But again, to those of you who are going, have fun. Hey, you guys get to go to a really interesting country. You guys get to have authentic sushi as well. That's pretty cool. So there's that. Let's see here. Okay, got Q&A. Wrap up the show here. Got some good questions, and then we will wrap it up here. So I'm going to get some water real quick, and then we'll continue. Got 4 pretty juicy questions here. Some of these tie into breaking news, and some of them, 2 of them not so much. But okay, got the water, has been drank, and let's do this. First question, again, dealing with some breaking news here that happened this morning. What are your thoughts on Lee Corso retiring from Gameday, and any great memories? So if you guys didn't see this, yes, the great Lee Corso, former Louisville, Indiana head coach, uh, Gameday analyst for a long time, the funny guy on Gameday, the mascot wearing uh, analyst there on Gameday for most of my lifetime, is retiring. ESPN announced this this morning. Lee's final show. Now he won't be missing the entire season. He will have one final show, week 1, Labor Day weekend. So that's Saturday. He'll be there. Now the location is not determined yet. Some folks are wondering, is it going to be Ohio State, Texas? That game again, since it is Big Ten territory, I would imagine that'll be the noon kickoff game on Fox. Probably. Folks wondering, could it be, LSU Clemson? That's a little bit more ESPN friendly. Could also be Florida State Bama, given that Lee went there, and of course, as not to mention the whole, or at least not try to connect that to what's happening right now as I'm recording this at Florida State, but from the sports side of things, him being an alumni there would make sense. But yeah, this is sad. Of course, Lee had the stroke a number of years ago. He's not been the same since then. He's been struggling, and I think a lot of folks have realized that. And I think a lot of, including me, I've noticed that as well. Of course, he's not been present on game day recently. A lot of health issues. He's been missing a lot of shows. It's gonna be tough. It's been tough seeing him on there, but it is gonna be sad to see him go. Of course, he will enjoy the rest of his life in the next chapter of his life, and to me, it's gonna be sad. I'll admit, I'll probably end up shedding a tear or two when he's on there in the fall. Of course, he will not be there in Dublin when they. Of course, game day will be over there, but he hasn't been traveling over there when they've been doing it. So his final show will be August 30th, I believe. That's that Saturday of Labor Day weekend. And from my best memory of him, there's a lot of them. I could do a whole hour, if you will, of Lee Corso's memories. First one that comes to mind was the one at Houston. Was it SMU versus Houston? That was Kevin Selman and Case Keenum, I believe. Him wearing the Shasta Cougar head and him saying "fuck it" on live TV, and probably the best moment from him. Of course, a lot of the big moments, him at Georgia and Bama in 2008. That's a great one. Bill Murray and him at Clemson, Florida State, 2013, when Bill Murray takes him down when he's in the Chief Osceola costume and everything. It's a great moment from that season. I think the best moment from that season. Just a lot of great memories, man. I remember watching him. Of course, if you guys didn't know this, I don't think I mentioned this before, but for a long time when I was in my youth, back when I was in elementary school, I was not a big college football fan. I really didn't get into it until 2012, 2013. But the one thing I did do when I was young, when I wasn't so much a fan, I would watch Game Day a little bit with my folks, and the thing about Game Day was always getting towards the end of the show when Lee would put on the helmet. Either an actual football helmet, because some schools didn't let them wear the actual mascot costume. One of them famously being Auburn, but either a helmet or like a costume or a mascot head. It was just fun. It was really funny to see a guy wearing a suit and tie, and he has like a Brutus hat on, or a Bevo head, or a Big Al head, or a Hairy Dog head, or a Albert the Gator head. Just great memories from Lee, and it's gonna be sad to see him go, but we'll always remember him, and hopefully he enjoys his life, the rest of his life, and the next chapter of his life, and hopefully he enjoys it, and he'll still be around, right? He's not going anywhere anytime soon in terms of other things, but it's gonna be sad when he leaves Game Day. It's gonna be tough. A lot of those, Kirk's been there for a long time, and him and Lee have grown pretty close over the years, and past folks have been on there. David Pollock, Jesse Palmer, I believe he's been on there before. But there's a couple of the guys who work on Game Day, former guys. Chris Fowler put out a video earlier. Chris did. Kirk did. I believe Reese Davis did. A lot of tributes going out, but of course we'll have the whole summer to talk about this, and we'll have one last hurrah, wherever it's at, whether it's in Clemson, South Carolina, or Heck, could even be in Atlanta for Tennessee Syracuse. So or Columbus, Ohio, where it started off, which will probably be the one. I think a lot of folks are wondering. It'll probably be that. It'll be tough to not imagine Lee Corso's final show on game day, him not putting on the Brutus head again, so the circle's complete. So yeah, I saw that this morning, and my hats off to Lee for a great career, and hopefully he enjoys the next chapter of his life. Next question, another newsy topic here. Did the new fake injury rule fix anything? Of course, this is something that was approved today, if you didn't notice, among the smorgasbord of breaking news. Yes, this rule came out, and people are calling it the Lane Kiffin rule or the Ole Miss rule. Of course, the faking injuries famously. The most recent example was Ole Miss versus Kentucky, I believe, last year when a guy faked an injury. It was obvious. Did it fix anything? Not really. From what I can tell, I think it still allows, I think folks on Twitter were joking about it. And now, instead of it being just immediately get down, it's get down before the ball is placed. So doesn't prevent anything. Is it a stupid thing? Faking injury? Yes. Is it weird? No. Is it great for meme content? Absolutely. You will not take that away from anyone. The memes and stuff and the commentary and stuff and whatnot. But yeah, did the new rule fix anything? Not really. I know. Is that more of a priority than targeting? No, I think the targeting rule, I think a lot of folks can agree on this, needs to be overhauled. I don't think a player sitting out the entire game is necessary, if you will. In my opinion, it's a bit harsh. But yeah, saw that this morning, and it is what it is. And did it fix anything? No, but I did see that. Next question here, not so much news, these two, but interesting question here. So with Star Wars Celebration going on, I figured, why not answer this question? Because this is a pretty niche topic, but if you're a major Star Wars fan, especially the animated shows, you may remember this. So whatever happened to the Rebels sequel animated show? That was rumored for a long time. So this, if you guys don't remember this, if you're a Star Wars fan, let's story time with For Verticals podcast. But back in 2020, and this is before March, of course, a lot of us know if you were born or around by then. If you were born, then you probably don't remember this. But if you recall correctly, before the chaos of 2020, there's that period from January to early March where things were still normal. And one of the things, at least in the Star Wars community, of course, it was after Mandalorian season 1 came out, after Rise of Skywalker, so from that weird liminal period. Of course, we had Clone Wars season 7 coming out. So around that time, this rumor started to percolate. It was coming from an old show that's not around anymore. It's Kessel Run Transmission. So it's Noah Outlaw and Corey Van Dyke. Both those guys, I know they came back briefly this year, but I think they officially said we're done with this and they're done. I'm not going to get into specifics as to why. I have my own opinions on as to why they stopped it. But yeah, they did come back briefly. Kessel Run did, but they're not active anymore. Their channel's still around. At least I believe it is. It's been deleted a few times, but it's around currently. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up Kessel Run Transmissions. And I believe their video on this is not around anymore. But Josh over at Den of Nerds did actually talk to these guys a while back. And those videos, I believe, are still up. So if you look up Rebels sequel show, Den of Nerds, that's probably the best way to find this information. But anyway, Corey and Noah, when they were still doing this, their podcast, put out something that they got from a source that a Rebels sequel show was in development from Lucasfilm Animation. And it was going to be animated, very similar to the Clone Wars Season 7 and Bad Batch, although it was a separate show, so it was not the Bad Batch show. That's not what this show was. It was just animated very similar to that, very identical style. And the original show was going to be essentially what the Ahsoka show was going to be, right? It was the, Ahsoka, Sabine going out to find Ezra, and it was going to be basically the exact same thing. And they already had the rough animated, the rough draft animation done. They already had some voice acting done from, I believe, Ashley Eckstein, the voice actress who plays Sabine, I forget her name, Taylor Gray, who played Ezra, Lars Mikkelsen, I believe, also did voice recording as well. So a lot of the major voice actors and actresses already did voice work, and a lot of that was leaked out, I think, through multiple places back a couple years ago. And there was also, again, rough animation. I believe Noah and Corey actually saw that I believe they were actually sent photos of what it was going to look like, and apparently they said it looked really, really good. And of course, 2020 happens, the coronavirus happens, Clone Wars Season 7 comes out, then the announcement comes out of Bad Batch. A lot of folks were confused, is this, did Noah and Corey get their lines crossed? And they said, no, this show's still coming out. Then, of course, the months go by, Season 2 of The Mandalorian comes out, and then we get to the, the Disney Investor Day, I believe, which was now infamous now because a lot of the Star Wars shows are not even, like the Rangers show, of course, that's been canceled. Star Wars: A Droid Story, remember that? That's not happening anymore. Orlando, same thing not happening. Rogue Squadron. Rogue Squadron. Of Patty Jenkins, the Wonder Woman director, not happening anymore. So yeah, like 95% of those shows are not happening anymore, which is insane. It's kind of how infamous that whole Disney Investor Day was. Now for Marvel, it's a little bit better because a lot of everything they've done has, at least everything they announced, has came to fruition. But at least for the most part. But for Star Wars, yeah, like 95% of everything they announced on that stream has never happened. But the only things that did happen, I believe, was I don't remember. It still was the Kenobi show, The Acolyte, and Ahsoka. And when Ahsoka got announced officially, now before that, of course, there was even more rumblings. Of course, we heard. Of course, this was after Rosario Dawson was announced to play Ahsoka through the trades, and of course, it ends up being confirmed. Actually, originally through a leak on Instagram of a Brazilian Disney Plus account that accidentally leaked it. It was deleted promptly, but it was confirmed beforehand by multiple sources up into including an official Disney account on social media. So when the Ahsoka live action show was coming out, or being rumored, Corey and Noah on their shows, their live streams that are not available anymore, most of them aren't, they mentioned, look, the Ahsoka animated show, or the Ahsoka live action show is not the animated show. Those are two different things. It's probably the Ahsoka live action show is probably a successor to that. But I think as time went on, I think both of them eventually admitted, yeah, the Ahsoka show, the Ahsoka show, what we got eventually was just the zombified version of what the Rebels sequel was, and it just got totally scrapped and reworked into a live action show. Most of that is because of the success of the Ahsoka episode in Mandalorian Season 2. I think that after filming that, I believe the story is, after filming that, Dave and John were confident enough, and I think John even convinced Dave and saying, hey, I know you're doing this animated thing with Ahsoka and stuff, and this is supposedly only going to be a one-time thing, but I think Dave convinced him and said, look, I think folks are really going to like this. We're like, I think both you and I like what we're seeing. Just move that show to live action, get a live action cast, and we can get this going. And I think Dave agreed, and he eventually just told the whole animation department, the voice actors and actresses, look, we're not moving forward with this, we're moving on. And to anyone who still believes that Corey, Noah, and even Josh over at Dev Nerds were lying, no, I think a lot of that stuff, that original animation, that prototype animation and voice acting, that stuff has not been deleted to my recall. And I think they even used the original scripts and even the original animation to potentially even map out scenes for the actual show for Ahsoka. And I believe everything that you see in that show from season 1, not including season 2, or at least maybe not all of it, but I do believe everything from season 1 of Ahsoka, like every single episode, every single idea, every single design, everything, that was all from the original animation. I am totally convinced that's where it all came from. And I do believe the original animation voice acting is out there, and it's lost media. We will never, unless 10 years ago, once this Mandoverse stuff ends, who knows, maybe Dave Filoni in a panel at a future Star Wars Celebration will reveal that and actually show us that. But at the moment, it's lost media. So if it ever gets leaked out, I think a lot of folks will be confused. But just remember, there were credible folks, up and including Josh over at Dev Nerds and Corey and Noah from Kessel Run Transmissions, that reported that a long time ago. And look, some folks still don't believe them until this day. But I still believe that footage, or at least the recordings, exist. I believe concept art does exist. I believe the original prototype animation exists. And I think that whenever that stuff ever gets released, If it ever gets released or leaked, I think it's going to blow a lot of people's minds that, yeah, that Rebels sequel show was originally going to be what this Ahsoka show was. Was supposed to be animated. Again, a lot of folks, even if you're losing this right now, you probably still don't believe me, but trust me, one of these days it's going to get revealed, whether it's leaked or not. I think a lot of folks will be surprised. And I wonder, too, if any of the actors, right, some of the actors and actresses we brought in, right, Ray Stevenson, Rosario, Natasha, I wonder if any of them have actually seen the footage. You probably have. I'd imagine they probably did. And but yeah, I still believe a lot of that stuff that was made for that, like the original animation, voice acting, I still believe all that stuff has been archived and will never be released publicly. At least at the moment. I'm probably 10 years from now, probably, or unless it gets leaked. But yeah, whenever that time comes, it will blow people's minds that that's actually true. Could be wrong here. I could be totally wrong, but I truly believe that was the case. This was going to be the Rebel sequel show was a real thing. It was originally going to be what the Ahsoka show ended up being. And again, if the original stuff from that production ever comes out, it's going to blow people's minds. And I think it will. I think eventually we will get that put out there, but it won't be until probably long down the line. And it'll be cool when it does. It'll be really awesome to actually see the evolution of that. Last question here. Was the, referring to what I was mentioning earlier of Nico, was the Tennessee offense the problem for Nico and his camp leaving Tennessee and going to, I guess, UCLA? I have a lot of thoughts on this, obviously. As someone who is a big fan of offense and a huge fan of Josh Heupel offense, even, I'll just say this a little another story here. Even before Heupel was hired at Tennessee, this is before Pruitt was fired. This is when Malzahn was fired. I was telling someone back in the day, hey, look, if Auburn looking for a new head coach, this is before Brian Harsin was hired, given the talent roster, who they have at quarterback, at least back then was Bo Nix, Josh Heupel wouldn't be a bad fit here. I don't think some folks are like, who? The guy at UCF, who? I'm like, yeah, that guy at UCF. I think he'd be a good hire. I like the offense. It fits with the current roster, being easy plug in. But folks didn't listen to me. But then those same people, 2 years later, 2 years later, when Tennessee's like number one in the country and Hendon Hooker's on his way to being a Heisman finalist, of course, he gets injured. But folks then the same folks were saying, man, you were right about Josh Heupel, and I still am right about him, I think. I still have faith in him. I like his offense. His offense put out two guys who were drafted, right? Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton, who was still active in the NFL. That offense, to me, is not the issue, I believe. And I think a lot of folks, a lot of NFL types criticize it, right? It's not professional enough. It's not NFL enough. It's not tough. And it's not offensive line and football, running the football, high formation, all this stuff. And look, I get all that, right? The NFL's a different animal, right? And as a Buccaneers fan, I get it, right? You want to there's a certain standard in the NFL to be physical, run the football. The O-line has to be really, really good. Your running backs, quarterback doesn't have to be all that special, right? You don't have to be running. You don't have to run around in circles and stuff unless you're, Lamar in Baltimore. But to be this whole, the Tennessee offense was a problem for Nico, I disagree with that because, again, look at Joe Milton, look at him and Hendon Hooker. Yes, those guys weren't, they're not going to be like MVP, NFL MVPs, but they were drafted. Teams took a flyer on them. And I think for Nico's camp, it's like, okay, like, sure, yeah, the offense won't translate to NFL 100%, but it's a good offense, right? You'll get your accolades and you'll get your 4,000-yard passing, but I don't know. I do fall into the camp of this wasn't a money issue and not an offense issue. And this goes back to what a lot of folks have been saying about this whole situation about, hey, pay attention to where the numbers are coming from or the information, right? So for me personally, was the offense the issue for Nico? No. I mean, even though, yes, he struggled at times last year, the Arkansas game and the Bama game a little bit, it still wasn't horrible, right? I think Tennessee had a top 15 offense. That's better than what Auburn had last year. It's better than what Oklahoma had last year. It's better than what Michigan had last year. It's better than what UCLA had. I just don't firmly believe the offense last year was 100% the problem for Tennessee. Or the Tennessee offense is not the issue or reason why Nico left. It's very clearly that it was the money, it was the contract situation, and it was, very similar to what happened before the playoff game versus Ohio State. So, no, it was not an issue. The offense is not the problem. It's an offense that's been proven to be successful, right? It's the Baylor Bryles stuff and the veer and shoot, wide receivers in a butt. It says it every single time on cover 3 where it's, the wide receivers are literally so close to the line of scrimmage, or not line of scrimmage, the sidelines where they can literally spin on it, right? And the offense, to be honest, that's the offense I run on College Football 25. If you're wondering what's my offense, that's it. It's the Tennessee offense. It's in my version, I spiced up a little bit because you can do your custom playbooks, but yeah, that's the offense I run in College Football 25. And of course, yes, it's not a 100% translation, but it's pretty close, right? But no, I do not believe the offense for Tennessee was the issue when Nico left. No, it's not what's been reported from actual reporters, not those who have certain biases or bias side, if you will, a little bias to either one camp. But no, I just don't firmly believe that's what it was. And I think credible people have said otherwise. Yeah, and that's the show. So again, if you're new here, welcome in. Thank you for listening in. Make sure to subscribe, like the stream. Don't have to click the notification bell. Not required. I don't personally, for folks who I follow on YouTube. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast feed. Follow us on Twitter. The typical boilerplate stuff. Because of celebration going on, just in case we may do a special video this weekend. We'll see if there's anything major happening. Unless any other breaking news happens, we'll do a video. But more likely, we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Enjoy your weekend. I know I will. Here in Jacksonville, it's going to be really warm. I know it was cooler the past couple of days, but it's been nice. Nice today. It's been really, really nice this weekend. Temperatures near the 90s. So how about that? Summer's here. And pretty soon it'll be hurricane season. Less than 90 days away. So if you live in, Gulf Coast, East Coast, whatever, just, as we're, deep in the show here, make sure your supplies is touched up on, because if you're doing it during the season, that's going to be hard. So may as well do it early before, don't do it when a Category 3 hurricane is in the Gulf or in the Caribbean or whatever, and you're in the cone, or near the cone. But anyway, enough of the weather stuff. Again, enjoy your weekend. If you're at Star Wars Celebration, have fun out there, or over there, I guess, or all of you over there. I'm sure you guys are having fun. Would like to go over there, but I'm just not in the position to go over there, but this is what it is. So until Tuesday, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy celebration, Star Wars Celebration. Enjoy Easter as well if you do celebrate. For all of our everyone across the country does celebrate. That's happening this weekend as well. So, hey, by the way, Sunday's 420. How about that? For those of you who partake in the Mary Jane, you'll be celebrating that as well. So how about that? How about do 2-for-1 special? So yeah, so until Tuesday, take care. Enjoy your time of celebration. Enjoy Easter. Take care, and we'll see you on Tuesday.